executive session at 7 PM. Do I have a second? All right, second by Councilmember Kaminsky. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're out of executive session. With that, make a motion to end the work session. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Bukowski. All in favor?
Aye.
And the work session is closed. And with that, we're going to gavel in the regular meeting. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. And Councilmember Bukowski, if you can lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and please remain standing for a moment of silence to our veterans. All right, and for the invocation, we have Reverend Rick Maisano. Good evening.
Good evening. Let's look to the Lord in prayer. Father, as you just heard, as we pledged allegiance to our flag, we said, one nation under God. So Lord, we are asking and invoking your name and asking your help and guidance in this meeting tonight. We ask, Father God, that it'll go smoothly, things will be done. And Father God, that residents would be heard and what their thoughts are and some of these issues and resolutions. We think of what's going to happen Thursday at Town Park with our veterans. As we honor them, Lord, let's remember that our freedom didn't come easy. It came with lives, blood, and lives lost. So Lord, I pray, Father, for our veterans, those who may be watching on YouTube, but Lord God, that you would just bless them and help them. And Lord, we think of all our soldiers, Father, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Air Force, Father God, that you be with them and our police force and our fire department. Lord, these are people who risk their lives to keep us safe. We ask your blessing upon them and upon this country. We ask it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. May be seated. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call?
Councilmember Barbara Bukowski. Here. Councilmember Michael Jazinski.
Here.
Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Klarsky.
Present.
Councilmember Vernon Thompson.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Miller.
Present. All are here. All right. All right, next up on our agenda is the public comment period. This is an opportunity for residents to comment on items appearing on the agenda of the town board meeting tonight. The public comment period should last 15 minutes maximum. Each speaker may speak only once. Each speaker shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes speaking time. All right, first speaker tonight is Wally Carriero.
Good evening. My name is Wally Carriero. I live at 948 Dick Road, Cheektowaga, New York. Just a couple resolution items I want to get my opinion on. Resolution number 2024-433, which refers to 3438 Broadway special use permit. I oppose that only because I could say two words: hot dog heaven. We issue special use permits and they never go away. So when we issue a special use permit to somebody, we better make sure that we're throwing a penny from a bridge and we don't expect it to ever come back. These people are going to be living next to that place forever. And they've lived in that home, or their families lived in that home for over 100 years. And I think they are due a little respect in the community. The next one is 2024-495, which is the reduction of the town council from 6 to 4. I support that. And I don't see any other community in Western New York that has a board this large. And maybe by making the board a little bit smaller, it'll make your voices a little bit louder, and we'll be able to move the town to the next level. 2024-499, the call for public hearing for a local law creating the aggressive panhandling. I oppose that. I've already picked out my corner. I'll be retiring in a few years, and I can't have you guys arresting me just because I got to pay my taxes. Resolution 2024-514, creation of a town controller, I think is necessary for this town to be fiscally responsible. And again, my example of this is what the costs are in our police department and how they're put into the general fund. where we can't even break out the cost of our police department to treat the village of Depew fairly. We give them a blanket check every year because we don't even know what our police department is costing the community.
Right.
And last but not least, the adoption of the cyclical reassessments of the town. I want you to think about this beyond the town. The last time we changed the assessments, we ended up losing star money. Every taxpayer lost star money because we changed 100% assessment. So we thought we were doing a good thing a couple years ago when we did it, but then I ended up getting a reduction in my star just because we didn't follow the 100% assessments. So look beyond what you're voting on, ladies and gentlemen, and try not to stick it to the town any worse than what it has to be. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Bernie Ruzniak.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to reference the resolution 2024-503. I would like to know that I agree to, as far as towing of town police cars, the cap it at $175 per tow, no matter what time of day.
For police cars,
For the police cars only.
okay, for police cars only.
Right.
All right, I appreciate that. We discussed this in the work session, and we're gonna make an amendment to the resolution.
Okay, thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Gary Bork.
I want to urge you to buy the garbage totes. I think that we're at the point where you need them. Some residents need them. I don't need one. Mine's held up for, what's been there, 12, 15 years. We've had them, they're good. But there are people who need them. I think you should buy them. And then I think what you should do with recycling, take the recycling off, get the specifications for them, put them out to bid, put out a bid for garbage totes for the next round. But make sure you got the exact same specifications. Maybe ask people to give you different levels, 50, 100, whatever. So you get different bids on it, and do that as soon as possible. Don't wait on it, so you're ready to do it when it comes up again in the next year. But I think the initial 180 you need now, people need them. Neighborhoods look terrible when people are just putting out their garbage cans, overflowing, bags don't work. We've had, that's the rat problem, and that's why we have the totes in the first place. Downsizing, I don't think you can do it. First, you're a covered entity. You can't do anything without the Attorney General's permission. So think about that. Second, I think you're diluting the vote of the minority population by doing so, and that's, of course, subject to a lawsuit already anyways. But you have to go through, outside of the lawsuit, you still have to go through the Attorney General. We are the only covered entity in Western New York. And the reason we're a covered entity is because we are so highly segregated in our housing. That's why we are a covered entity. So remember that. I don't think the AG is going to approve any downsizing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Dawn Filipski. Good evening.
Hi, how are you? Yes, so much taller. Okay, I came to talk about the personnel issues that we're having here. The first one is Resolution 516, where you talk about voiding the list. I don't think that's a good idea, that while it may be legal, people paid money, employees in this town paid money to take that test, to get on a list, to get a promotion. And just because the one person that's trying to get this job either didn't take it or didn't pass it, I don't feel that's a good enough reason to void the list. People worked hard to get on that list. The other question that I had on personnel stuff was 519. Where an interdepartmental poll was conducted to bid on a position for a laborer. Maybe I'm missing something, but it sounds like they just asked around who wants the job. Was that job posted any place? Is it not posted? Is it not able for other people, even out of town people, to get it? Those were the two things that I had questions of. And the working crew chief. So last week, 2 weeks ago, when Jerry read off all the duties of the working crew chief, the job posting for the town is slightly different than that from the county. So when he talked about that you had to perform routine sewer maintenance, That's not in the original county one. When he talked about that they assist in the work of laborers and sewer maintenance workers, the word sewer is not in the original county one. And when they talk about supervising a moderate-sized group of workers doing routine sewer maintenance, again, the word sewer does not appear in the county posting at all. In addition, when posting jobs, I think it would be a good idea not to post, to only put, not, let me say this the right way. When you post for a job, you post the opening date, you put the ending date, when that bid closes, or whatever it is. You also should be putting the salary grade or the salary range in these job postings. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Final speaker is Dave Ulatowski.
Good evening. David Ulatowski, 333 Lydia Lane. I'm here regarding Resolution 24464, the ward system. I believe that this arose due to complaints and a possible lawsuit regarding voting. The question that is posed, I believe, is are the present voting procedures fair, and do they offer the voting public an equal opportunity to cast a vote for a candidate they believe in and think will represent them? Town of Cheektowaga has approximately 73,000 residents and has been decreasing. Some of these residents have lived here for a lifetime. Some are newly located. There are people living here with ancestry to Europe, Asia, Africa, and Middle Eastern countries. And just like what we learned in grade school, people from many countries come to one, assimilate, and help homogenize the community. To say that one person can't represent another because they are of a different gender, race, creed, or other category dismisses the category of that person. Everyone with knowledge and honesty can represent or speak on behalf of another without needing to actually walk in their shoes, live in their home, or be as exact as them. To say otherwise discriminates the value of all. The town of Cheektowaga has one budget, one board, one highway department, etc., and provides services to all town residents and businesses. Elected officials take an oath to justly perform their duties to the best of their abilities for the benefit of the entire town. If any candidate that might get elected in an individual ward believes that they only represent the people of a certain street or neighborhood, I believe they are shortchanging all the residents of the town and missed the underlying message of an elected official, serving all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. All right. That, we're going to move on to our presentation. We have a representative from Gresham Lucky with us this evening. If you'd like to approach the podium. Madam Clerk, do you have the slideshow associated with this? Let me forward that.
I have some hard copies too.
Yeah. I thought that was forwarded on Monday morning. Yeah, I'm gonna forward it right now. Yeah, it looks like 10 a.m. Monday morning, the ask was put in. I don't know if it ever got to you though. So I'm sorry for that. Take a look at the top of your email, please. You can give us just a moment and
Yeah.
then we'll have you introduce yourself and we'll begin the presentation. The floor is yours.
Okay. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Corey Svensson Scoble with Dreschel Malecki. We are the external auditors for the town of Cheektowaga. Tonight, I'm just presenting a quick presentation on the 2023 audit, talk about the products of our audit, as well as some of the operations and the trends that we saw for 2023. On the first slide, it outlines the products of our audit. First and foremost being the financial statements. These are the books and records as prepared by management, outline the operations of the town for the 2023 fiscal year end. We come in and perform a series of audit tests to gain reasonable assurance about whether those financial statements are fairly stated or not. This year, similar to prior years, we had an unmodified or clean opinion. We didn't have any findings in relation to compliance or internal control. Second part of our audit is the single audit. This is required for the town if the town spends in excess of $750,000 in federal funding. For 2023, the town spent about $8 million. So from the programs, we tested ARPA, the COVID money, and we also had a clean opinion and no findings in relation to the single audit. Third item is the auditor communication letter. This outlines our required communications as the external auditors for the town. Fourth is the management letter. We use this as a tool to provide any comments on improvement ideas, best practices, and also to alert management to any future reporting requirements to be aware of. Second last is departmental reports. We look at the town clerk, tax receiver, as well as the justices. We perform some cash disbursement testing, cash receipt testing, and our reporting for that was also clean opinion, no findings there. Lastly, we help compile the annual update document. This gets submitted to New York State Office of Comptroller's Office. We do that in April before the deadline. Moving on to the next couple of slides are the financial statement updates. We're going to walk through 4 of the major funds that the town has, the operations, the trends over the last 5 years, as well as the fund balance levels. So first fund is the garbage fund. You can see over the last 5 years, it's been pretty steady, with 2023 revenues ending at about 9.7 million, expenditures 9.6, overall increase in fund balance of about 123,000. And then on the next slide shows where those fund balances have sat for the garbage fund for the last 5 years. You can see the increase in that light gray portion. This is due to increase in appropriated fund balance that was set in the town's budget. Next slide shows the sewer fund. This fund has had increases and decreases over the last 5 years, but mainly revenues exceeding expenditures. 2023 ended with expenditures at 13.5 million, revenues 13.4. Overall, small decrease of about 120,000 for this fund. And the next slide shows the sewer fund balance. Pretty slight change from year to year. There wasn't a huge change here, but you could see there's also that increase in appropriated fund balance in that light gray portion. And then the highway fund, this fund, you could see 2019 through 2021 revenues exceeding expenditures. You see a larger jump in 2022 in expenditures. That was mainly due to some emergency costs for those November, December 22 snowstorms that we had. But you can see in 2023, kind of returning back to that steady pace that you saw prior to 2022. Expenditures at 13.2 million, revenues at 13.1, small decrease of fund balance of about 31,000. And then the fund balance trend, you could see that fund balance going from 21 to 22. That explains the emergency costs that the town incurred. And then the pretty similar state from 22 to 23 with some increases in encumbrances, which is carryover purchase orders, as well as subsequent years expenditures in the budget. And lastly, the general fund, overall trending increases in fund balance over the last 5 years. Increases from 21 to 22, mainly due to more ARPA spending, that COVID relief money that was being spent out the door. 2023 ended with revenues of about 65.2 million, expenditures of 64.9, overall increase of 221,000. And then this last fund balance trend chart shows the general fund pretty similar from last year to this year, with similar increases in that subsequent year's expenditures appropriated fund balance that was set in the budget. And this last slide just has my information as well as Carl Widmer, the partners on the audit's information. So I can take any questions now, or you can contact Carl or I if anything comes up later on.
Any questions from board members on this? I know it was a run through.
I'm sure I will after looking at this a little bit more.
Major question I have is, does your firm have any thoughts, concerns, comments on the health of our various funds here about how much cash we have retained, whether assigned or unassigned?
Mhm.
Or would you like to speak in any detail on any of the particular funds?
No, I think, overall, all the funds had very small changes, increases and decreases in fund balance over year end. Looking at the general fund, the last slide, total, I don't have the total fund balance, but you can see there's a healthy portion of that restricted portion that you have restricted for capital projects, so forth, as well as that unassigned, which is available to use. Obviously, for audits, we're looking back at the trends and what happened and the operations, the controls. But overall, I don't see any big red flags looking through this 2023 year end.
Other question I had was about the management letter.
Yeah.
You happen to have a copy of that with you and tonight, because I asked that because I'd like you to go over a couple of those, the major points on that for the board.
Yeah, I don't have it with me, but off the top of my head, I can remember some of the new ones that we had for this year.
Sure.
We spoke with Brian, Director of Administration and Finance, about capital assets, looking at what the fixed assets the town board has, and looking into see a cost benefit analysis of having an inventory performed by a third party. He was unaware of the last time that was performed, so something to look at for the future. With the spending and the ARPA money and the capital happening, increases in capital assets have happened over the last few years, so it might be a good thing to look at and have an outside party come in, make sure departments are tagging those assets that should be capitalized, as well as removing old ones off of the books as well.
Okay.
The other item we talked about was the payroll system becoming automated. Right now, I think it's a very manual process of timesheets and pay stubs being dispersed to the employees. So looking at that system and see if it lines up and makes sense with the size of the town and the amount of employees was another item we discussed. And then lastly, we look at a lot of bank recs between the town's bank accounts as a whole, as well as the departments. So looking at firming up those procedures and documenting those for the departments as well as the townwide bank accounts. I think those were the new ones we had for this year. Any questions on those?
Councilmember Thompson.
So as far as, audits, you look at, say, the sewer department,
Mhm.
we have 6 million in revenue and 6 million in spending. How deep are you looking at what they're spending on? And I guess that's the main.
Yeah, so as the external auditors, we're really looking at the big picture of the town, right? All of the assets, liabilities, and fund balance where the town's sitting for all the funds. So we do some expenditure disbursement testing. We test by fund rather than by department. So we're definitely seeing some of the sewer fund expenditures when we do our testing. We test it to the town's purchasing policy, as well as like competitive bidding and making sure that that is being done properly. But the nitty gritty details of everything, we look at the reasonableness of the purchase, if it makes sense. But that's pretty detailed if we go any further. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, and concerns from council members? All right. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Alright. Next up on our agenda is a public hearing for the demolition of 44 Virginia Road. There is a sign-up sheet for anyone that may want to speak on that. One last opportunity. And our only speaker this morning, or this evening, what am I doing? Podium is yours this evening.
All right, good evening. My name is Kevin Carnegie. I am a fire inspector for the Town of Cheektowaga Office of Fire Safety. I am here to represent the building department in the matter of the demolition of 44 Virginia Road. Can we go to the next one? All right, so the timeline of events here, Friday, June 7th of this year, I received an anonymous complaint in the office after hours. That the house was unsecured, unmaintained, so we didn't have any clue about it until Monday morning on June 10th. At that point, in that afternoon, I contacted the Cheektowaga Police to have them perform a welfare check on the building and have them verify the conditions reported. The welfare check yielded no results and found the building absent of any occupants. Officers also discovered hoarding and squalor conditions in the northern unit. So then Tuesday, the 11th of June, I attempted to contact the owner via the phone at Survey Construction at 1 Brinkman Avenue in the city of Buffalo, which is one of his listed addresses. I was informed that he had never worked there and that his brother had been an operations manager at one point prior to his passing when he left the house to Mr. Robinson. I then got the Cheektowaga Dispatch, had them do a DMV check, which brought up an address on Main Street, the city of Buffalo, which is a dentist's office. So this guy is almost impossible to find if you don't know where he is. Dispatch then reached out to area hospitals, attempted to see if the owner was presently located in the hospital, which also yielded negative results. The VA hospital did indicate they had been looking for him for over a year for a follow-up. Last known contact from our department with the owner was on July 26, 2023, regarding an unlicensed unregistered motor vehicle in the driveway. We were also unable to locate an obituary or certificate of death. With the information in mind and the observed exterior conditions on the site, which included piling of debris and long grass, broken windows, that sort of thing, and an unsecured front door, a letter was issued with a 7-day timeline for response to all 3 addresses. Following up on June 18th, Tuesday, an administrative inspection warrant authorized by the Honorable David Stevens of the Town of Cheektowaga Justice Court was executed on the property. The following was notated. I can go down to, yeah, down there. Thank you. The south unit was indeed vacant. The rear studio apartment was also vacant. The north apartment contained extensive squalor and hoarding with signs of structural compromise. There is a structural collapse in the basement wall in the northwest corner of the main building, with water infiltration from the collapse affecting the power panels located in that corner. National Grid was called to turn off to pull the power meters, National Fuel to turn off gas service, and Erie County Water Authority to turn off the water. The building was secured using 3/8 plywood by the town contractor Candela Construction. Monday, June 24th, property condition report and letter of condemnation was forwarded to the town's law department, and then the 13th of August, we had the resolution 2024-463 announcing this public hearing. Go to the next one, Kim. So the property has a history of high grass, unlicensed motor vehicles, and debris piled on the property. Next one, property contains 1 3-family, 2-story residential structure with attached multi-bay garage. The main building was constructed in 1942, and the property is 0.14 acres with 50 foot of frontage along Virginia Road, which makes it a non-buildable lot without variances. You can go to the next one. Oh, sorry, back to the map. All right. The dwelling is located on the west side of Virginia Road between both ends of Ellen Drive. And the property is bordered by 50 Virginia on the north, 40 Virginia on the south, and 31 and 37 Ellen to the west. Based on the internal inspection of the dwelling, it is evident there are immediate structural deficiencies causing the building to be unsafe to the general public and meets the criteria of paragraph 75(3), subparagraphs D, E, F, H, I, and J of the Town of Cheektowaga unsafe building law, and is therefore recommended for demolition. So there we have the structural collapse of the basement and the subsequent sinkhole that is forming in the driveway. And then that's the conditions in that north apartment. And that's just the living room. It's the entire apartment is that manner as well. And with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions from board members? Only question I have has to do with the timeline and next steps from here.
So the next step will be to put forth a resolution for asbestos evaluation and testing. And then from there, it'll be as soon as whoever bids on that project gets it. So we probably looking at a December demolition date.
That's basically what I was getting at. So we're looking at December.
Most likely between December and January would be my estimation.
All right. Any questions, comments from anybody else?
Here was the house built.
1942. It's a block foundation. I'm sorry?
So there'd probably be lead abatement possible in there too, right?
Most likely, yes. Usually when we're, especially something with a collapse like this, we're doing a controlled demolition to avoid having to put any workers in there to try to abate any asbestos, anything like that.
Sure.
But we do have to know if there's asbestos in there to be able to do demolition in a controlled manner. But it's an identical home to the one that we demolished last year at 34 Virginia. Same collapse in the exact same spot. So it's on its way to the same conditions that one was in.
Yeah, and we got a bunch of them in that neighborhood that are built similar.
Yep, most of that neighborhood is the exact same construction, exact same design.
So as far as planning going forward, what do you foresee happening to that vacant lot?
At this point, the demolition bill will go on the tax bill for that lot. Generally, then after the homeowner stops paying taxes on it, which they are up to date, surprisingly enough, and it's abandoned. They are, usually the county waives any additional fees that are on it and they sell it at auction.
All right. Anything else? All right, thank you, sir. Next up on our agenda is the consent agenda announcement. A consent agenda is contained in this meeting. The consent agenda is designed. Oh, sorry. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? Second from Councilmember Bukowski. All in favor? Any opposed? Opposed. Now we're on to the consent agenda announcement. A consent agenda is contained in this meeting. The consent agenda is designed to assist in making the meeting shorter and more efficient. Items left on the consent agenda may not be discussed when the consent agenda comes before the town board. If any council member wishes to discuss a consent agenda item, please tell me now, and I will remove the item from the consent agenda, and it will be added as a separate resolution item. Do we have any items that desire to remove? I see Councilmember Jazinski. I see hand from Councilmember Polarski. Councilmember Jazinski, are you looking to be recognized before I go to Polarski?
He can go first.
Okay, Mr. Polarski.
It's just number 18, so we, excuse me, so we can amend it,
Number 18.
which is the comptroller.
That would be 514, right?
Yes,
Okay. So you got 2024-514. Any other council members have items they would like removed?
Yeah, 516, 517.
Okay, that's 2024-516 and 2024-517.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other items?
503.
I have that on my list.
Oh.
So yes, we can clerk, can you remove 503, 2024-503? And also 2024-499. Are there any others?
Do we have 5?
At the moment, I think council members are still looking.
514, 516, 517, 503 is 499.
That's the current list.
514, could you repeat it, please?
14, 16, 17,
14, 16, 17.
503, and 499.
Here, yeah.
Nope, I'm good.
Mike, you good? I'm good. Thanks. Brian, you all right down there? I'm good. All right, with anything for you? All right, I believe we're all set.
Was
Just
there
the-
another one called out?
Just the 5 items.
Second?
I'm sorry?
You're all second?
All set, yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting agenda? As is, motion?
I will make a motion.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Thompson, all in favor?
Aye.
We have some items on the table. Do I have a motion and a second to move any or all items from the table?
I will make a motion to remove all items from the table with the exception of 2024-495. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Motion has a second from Councilmember Kaminsky. All in favor? Any opposed? Carries. I do want to make mention, so there's unanimous consent to remove items 1 through 7 on the table. I do want to make mention that item 8 is still on the table. If there's majority support to remove that, we could take a second vote on that alone. If there's interest on taking that off the table to consider it this evening.
Take that off as well.
You're making a proper motion? Is there a second? All right. All in favor of removing resolution 2024-495 from the table?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm opposed. Believe, have a roll call vote on removing that from the table?
Who was the second?
Thompson and Jazinski.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Bukowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Jazinski?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
No.
Councilmember Kolarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
President Noah?
No. It's, I believe it's removed from the table.
It is removed from the table. We will take up resolution 495 as well. We need, we're going to start with resolution 433. It's resolution 2024-433, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Bukowski. Michael Halloran, applicant and owner of Carwell Products, has filed project submittals for review under parcel address 3438 Broadway, Chickawaga, New York, 14227. That is SBL 10216, 513.1 under project 2023-3492. As the approving local body, the Town Board of Chickawaga, New York grants a special use permit with conditions for the project 2023-0910.
On the question? On this item here, we had a,
You're gonna vote.
we had a zoning amendment that was proposed at the last meeting. That zoning amendment required unanimous consent. It did not achieve it. So I'd like to make a motion to pull this item from the agenda. If there's a second from Councilmember Bukowski, the item is pulled.
Item is pulled. Resolution 2024-452, sponsored by Supervisor Nowak, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Chickawaga Town Board by way of Resolution 2010-497, dated September 2nd, 2010, adoption of revised policies and procedures for procurement, goods and services, which are guidelines 6C, provides for a sole source situation exception to the solicitation of proposals or quotations. Requirement as the same may relate to the purchase of goods and services. The town of Chickawaga purchased the refuse totes and recycling totes for the following unit prices and quantities: 180 95-gallon recyclable totes, 180 95-gallon refuse totes, both at $63 each, for a total price of $23,280.
On the question, we discussed this a bit at the work session, and a few different things going on here, how there's an exception that allows us to buy from a company we previously had engagement in. We talked a little bit about sole source situations there. And then the idea of maybe going forward with just the garbage totes and not recycling. I think there's unanimous support for just getting the garbage totes here. I really think we should get both, but I also want to see us get this accomplished tonight. So I'm going to make an amendment to remove the recycling totes from this. And is there a second on that? A second from Mr. Jazinski. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. So the resolution's amended to strike out the recycling totes and keep 180 refuse totes. So,
We will strike the second line, and we will also change the price out to be $11,340.
okay.
Need a vote on the resolution as amended?
So, Madam Clerk, do we need any additional amendments, or does that, we may address the question?
No, you're fine.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, Councilmember, do you have a question?
So on here, it says sole source situation, but I don't believe that's the case, so I'm just asking if we need to modify that to be accurate.
I don't believe we do. It's like a sole source situation exception. Obviously, there's other competitors out there in the market, but if the town attorney wants to speak to it, my understanding of it is what they mean by sole source situation is somebody that they've had prior engagement with. Maybe I'm misrepresenting it, Mr. Fowler. What say you?
Just want it to be
Covered in a
correct.
Yeah.
third whereas. So basically, it's for the sake of uniformity, interchangeability of parts,
There we go.
retrofit the current equipment.
I just wanted to hear that from the lawyer, that's all. We're voting on.
Are you comfortable with his answer? Or you want to hear it from the town? Yeah, no.
He's here.
Let's get Mr. Fowler, if you can speak to it.
Please tell me what your question is.
So the question is about the sole source situation, right?
Yeah, so if we need to make an
Means.
amendment to this, because in this resolution, it states the sole source. We need to
Well,
have the amendments to make it.
I would
Proper.
move to strike the word sole source. In this particular instance, and I don't know the answer to the question, I wasn't involved in this previously. I don't know if there are other providers. I don't know if putting out an RFP would bring back bids. I don't know if anybody has totes that will work with our equipment. They may very well be sole source. But we do have contracts with these guys. I have used them in the past. And I don't have a problem using them or considering this. But again, I don't know if they're sole source or not, because I don't know who else provides it. I don't know if they're, meaning our sanitation equipment. If other companies can be modified to our, equipment, as far as their totes go, their standard totes.
So the main point was to ensure that this is a proper resolution with that word.
It is a proper resolution if they're sole source. I don't know, because I don't know what went out as far as asking for these bids. In this contract, I have not reviewed the contract, so I don't know what we have in a prior resolution that might allow us to continue to purchase from this vendor without procurement policy bidding.
Yeah, what I'm seeing it covered in the third whereas, where it says sole source situation exception. In the most literal sense. that there are other competitors out there, but in terms of like Councilmember Kaminsky said, you said it already. In terms of uniformity and all of those other things, we're able to utilize what's being called sole source situation exception in the resolution. You know, and part of what we talked about at the work session was looking at other competitors in the market for totes in the future, which I'm absolutely open to. I think it's a good idea to price it out and see what's best there. And we had one of them in particular that I won't name the company that may not be the answer to the question, but I think if you looked at the resolve, those are the actionable items. We talk about the number of totes we want, the budget line, and that we go ahead and make the purchase.
Yeah, that's not the concern. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure this was proper. That's all.
I hear you.
Language.
But in that third whereas, it does give a recitation as to why this vendor can be considered sole source with respect to mechanisms, technology, and right to retrofit. So if you want to keep it in there, it will pass muster and it's legally written.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any other council members? All right, all in favor of the resolution as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries.
We have resolution 2024-464, sponsored by the entire board. On December 14th, 2023, the town clerk of the town of Chickawaga received a letter from Ken Young alleging a violation of the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act of New York, Chapter 226 of the laws of 2022 of the state of New York. Notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of Chickawaga shall hold 3 public hearings on August 13th, 2024 at 4 p.m., August 17th, 2024 at 10 a.m., and August 27th at 7 p.m. at the Chickawaga Town Justice Court, 3223 Union Road, Chickawaga, New York, for the purpose of considering and soliciting input from the public on proposed ward plan establishing a ward-based election system for town board council member elections.
On the question?
Those dates have all come and gone.
They have.
Yep.
I think it's clear that those dates are not going to be workable there. We did hire an expert to draw ward maps to put up, you know, for consideration on a special election, on election day, to give the voters a choice on what to do in terms of a ward system. We've been going down this road for several months. I understand where the mood of the board is at the moment, and doesn't see, I would like to move forward at least public hearings. Would there be any interest in amending the dates, but holding the public hearings?
I'll go with amending them so we can hear from the public.
I agree.
So the dates we have, so we're gonna have to talk for a moment about the dates to make sure that there are at least dates that we can all agree that would be available. What we have here, we have 3 dates that are in the resolution. I would propose that we hold the hearing at the next board meeting on September 10th, and that'd be our first date at 7 p.m. We'll already have the board here, the public here. It'd be a weekday evening. And the next one, I would propose we go to September 14th at 10 a.m.
And if we're doing anything that has to do with this lawsuit, we should probably refer to our council, let them tell us when we have to select dates and things like that. I mean, I don't think we should just off the fly pick random dates right now.
I am just proposing dates, and I understand where you're coming from. So I'm just proposing dates that we can consider. So I'd say the 10th at 7 p.m., the 14th at 10 a.m., just to start a discussion. And then 9/24 at 7 p.m. So that way there's an opportunity for folks to speak at 2 board meetings and then in a weekend afternoon. Is there there any interest in considering an amendment to the dates at all? I understand it, there's not agreement on these particular dates, but I'm just throwing something out there to move this along, just for us to discuss.
I think the taxpayers have a right to speak.
I think we need to have, it, no matter what.
Anyone else on the dates?
Yeah, I can't commit to any dates. I mean, I travel sometimes with my job, so we have to probably figure out what days would be feasible. I mean, for me to decide now, I don't have my calendar in front of me.
2 of them are board meeting dates.
Yep.
That we're already here.
Oh, it'd probably be the 10 o'clock one, that'd probably be a no.
Understood, yeah, it's, if there's 4 of us that can agree to be in attendance, we can at least get a quorum, and it's understandable, I can't, I can't make every single date, I get where you're coming from, I do. So, are there any desired alternative dates worth considering that board members would want to consider? Because I want to make at least offer an amendment to this.
I think, Tim Brookbrand, I think, Vern might have said it, I think, we need to talk to legal team first, see what they're gonna be available.
Okay,
So we probably should pull this, defer to our legal team.
that's kind of what I'm looking for here. How does the board feel about pulling the item?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best bet.
Is there a proper motion in a second to pull it? I got a proper motion from Bukowski to pull it, and in a second. Second from Kaminsky. Item is pulled.
Number 64 is pulled. We are moving on to 2024-468. Sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. As part of performing the cyclical reassessment work approved by the town board as per resolution 2023-670, the town must obtain appraisal assistance to conduct the townwide cyclical reassessment. The current contract with our associates, LLC, is set to expire December 2024 during the middle of the 2025 reassessment. The attached contract for professional appraisal services as submitted by the firm of Gar Associates LLC and as recommended by the town assessor is approved and accepted.
All right. On the question?
I'll make a motion to pull this one.
I'll second.
Typically with pulling these items, it's the mover and the second, recognizing that there's council members that do want to pull it. I'll support the motion. I'll support the effort to pull the item. Councilmember Kaminsky, would you support as well?
Don't want to, but I will, Brian.
All right. The item is pulled. Thank you.
Item is pulled. That's item 2024-468. 2024-669, sponsored by Supervisor Noack, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Town Board of Chickawaga has entered into a 4-year cyclical reassessment plan with the Department of Taxation and Finance to ensure an assessment process that creates fair and equitable assessment roles. Town of Chickawaga has applied for and received state aid for the first year of the plan. Memorandum of understanding is standard procedure for the purpose to clarify and outline roles and responsibilities. Supervisor being hereby is authorized and directed to execute the memorandum of understanding with Office of Real Property Tax Services.
All right, on the question, seeing as I'm the mover, and this is kind of related to the previous item, I'm gonna make a motion to pull it.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky.
Item 469 is pulled. Resolution 2024-472, sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. County of Erie and the Town of Chickawaga pursuant to general municipal law and otherwise have municipal powers to design, improve, and maintain property for recreational purposes for the benefit of the public they serve, and to enter into joint agreements for the same. The town is the owner of certain parcel of property known as Stiegelmeyer Park. The county desires to assist the town in developing this property to the extent feasible through funding Stiegelmeyer Park casino renovations, which benefits the residents of the town and county. The supervisor being hereby is authorized and directed to execute the aforementioned intermunicipal agreement with Erie County.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. Councilmember Thompson, you're recognized.
Just wanted to see appetite for adding language, putting the dollar amounts in here of the grant that we are receiving, and then the amounts not to exceed the funds that are coming from the capital accounts that will be matching this.
I'd support that if the dollar amount we talked about was 300,000, right?
Yeah,
And there's
150 and
150, certain scope of work. With the scope of work that was discussed with the particular items there. I mean, we could put in a resolve that says, give me a moment to just think about how to work this. Say resolve that the
grant in the amount of 150.
yeah, total cost of work,
You're saying?
Not to exceed.
cost of work will not exceed 300,000. Recognizing 50/50 grant match. What do you think of that? The total cost of work, so it would mean the grant plus the town's match. So I'll make a motion to amend this to add an additional resolve that reads, resolve that the total cost of work will not exceed 300,000, recognizing 50/50 grant match. Is there a second on that? A second from Mr. Thompson. All in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? Alright.
Here's the problem I've got dealt with. I spent some time over there Saturday again, looking at the building. And the biggest thing is the stonework on it, being honest about it, been let go so long. Same with the relatively flat roof in the back, and that has been plagued by leaks, engineering for quite a while. Why? They should have took the poor setup. Even the flashing on the chimney and everything on that building is kind of done backwards where you actually open the weather side. And I just hate to see it, it's a bit of a landmark in a town. A lot of people don't know it used to be a sportsman club. Used to do a lot of shooting out there. And it's like I said, for the casino, for the park, I think it's an ideal situation. I just don't like restricting it to a specific dollar amount. That's it. What do we do if we get 3/4 of the way there and we don't have any more money? We just quit, close the building?
I have to get that point of discussion instead of just like checkbook.
Yeah, no, I'm not, no, believe me, I do not agree with a blank check either, Ryan. But I think we gotta be, basically, town hall is a prime example. I mean, we didn't know what we were getting into that. We can't even find out when they built was. We're digging into it, it's just, it's restrictive, there might be some cost overrun, I just don't wanna marry it down to the fact, the exact penny, $300,000 is what we're working on.
Especially when you deal with roofing, I've got the concern of saying, hey, we're gonna spend this much amount of money and that's it. I know in my very limited experience dealing with roofing, when you open it up and you think you're paying XYZ amount for skylights, for example, and then all of a sudden they find more rotting, they find more issues and say, we gotta take another piece of plywood out, put more shingles on, and then what a project you thought was gonna cost, just for the sake of argument, $100 is now $150. But with this, I did speak to the folks in engineering about this maximum dollar amount. They're pretty confident, despite some unexpected issues within reason, that they can make this dollar amount work for the scope of work. Councilmember Pulaski?
I was actually gonna piggyback right off that, the exact same things. I mean, they do a pretty decent job kind of projecting a little bit of overruns and costs going up on items and that, so I wouldn't want to leave a blank number there because I share the same concerns as Vern and others that look at, it's a blank check, I mean, or we give a higher amount with 400,000. We're gonna spend 400,000, let's be serious, so I do feel comfortable putting that 300 on, I think we should. And if we need to go back to it and say, hey, look at, we open up that roof and there's more rotted boards, either what are we eliminating from the scope or where are we gonna find the additional funding? I'd feel much
I
better
think
going
that
that
forces a
route.
discussion.
Correct, we could
At that
discuss it
point.
as it happens, rather than just saying what ifs, or, maybe the project comes in under 300 and then we get money back and keep it and save it, actually. Wouldn't that be great?
I know.
But I feel comfortable with the number they projected. They feel comfortable with it. I say let's move forward and put it on there.
As I say, we've seen both. We've seen change orders for things that are a little more expensive than we thought they would be. We voted on a number of those this year as a board. We've also seen projects come in under budget, especially with roofing though. We just don't know. I understand exactly where Jerry's coming from and I'm a little uneasy, but I think it's an amendment that'll get us to support this and move it along. We need to keep track of the work that's being done there and if we have to revisit this, I just hope that the decision isn't, we said 300,000, so leave the hole in the roof. I don't want to see us get there. So, as I said, I'm in support of the amendment on this and I think
put out the bid then, right?
they just leave a hole open on the roof.
No, I'm just saying, for the contractor to work on it, do we have, was it gonna be done now?
This is just the intermunicipal agreement to agree for the work to be done.
Right, so then we'd probably, next process would be we get the grant, we match funds, and then it gets put out the bid.
I would say there's probably more work that needs to be done on that, yeah.
That would be my guess.
So we did have, so where we are where we are procedurally on this is there was an amendment and
The amendment was given and the amendment was approved.
amendment was approved?
Yep.
No opposition to that? Okay. So we vote on the resolution as amendment? All in favor of the resolution as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. What's the language? You have it? Okay.
Resolution 2024-478, sponsored by Councilmember Jazinski, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. On October 1st, 1985, by way of general legislation, the town of Cheektowaga adopted Article 2, Senior Citizen Exemption of the town of Cheektowaga Taxation Law as Chapter 69 of the year 1985 to grant a partial exemption from taxation to the extent of 50% of the assessed valuation of real property, which is owned by certain persons with limited income who are 65 years of age or over, meeting the requirements set forth in Real Property Tax Law 467. By way of local law number 2 of the year 2022, this town board amended Chapter 220-60. By way of local law number 4 of the year 2023, this town board again amended Chapter 220-60. By way of local law 5 of the year 2023, this town board again amended Chapter 220-6B. The town desires again to amend Chapter 220, Section 220B. Conditions for exemption should reestablish the percentage of town taxes based on maximum annual income range.
All right, I'd like a roll call vote.
I'd like to talk about it first.
Councilmember Jazinski, go ahead.
So my opinion is that we need to take care of the most vulnerable population in the town, and that's our seniors. I know there's an appetite to discuss the other class that would be possibly impacted by this, and I'd be open for that conversation too. Personally, I think Cheektowaga across the board's got a problem with taxation, but let's take care of the people who built this town, the seniors. This is what's allowable per the state. Why not let these people have what the state said they can have? I mean, to me, it's fair. We can definitely address some concerns about who would pick up the slack. I'd be willing to work on some type of, resolution for that, because personally, I think that across the board, Cheektowaga has a problem with tax. But right now, I think the most important thing is that we take care of the most vulnerable population in our town, and that's our senior citizens. And as I said, we can talk about other people where the burden may go to. That's a total different discussion that I'd be totally open and on board with. But right now, we have the opportunity to take care of the most vulnerable population in our town, which is our seniors.
All right, any other council members?
Yes.
Gary, and then
I'm
Brian.
the oldest. I've done a lot of digging into this. We have brought this up so many times. Roughly, and the numbers do vary. You can go on, a census or whatever. Roughly 18 to 20% of the town of Cheektowaga is people over 65 years old. Could not find any definitive information, how many of them live in homes, how many are in nursing homes, how many live in apartments, how many live with possibly their grandchildren, their children, or whatever. And I think at least to me, for a lot of my friends that, sure, they're not hitting a home run, but they're getting by all right. I know a lot of single women that live alone seem to take care of themselves all right. But it's almost like, it's always the poor senior citizens. Listen, I got friends of mine that work the regular Joe job, that are driving Cadillacs, Lincolns, have their places in Florida, and they still complain about the taxes in the town of Kitchener. Because it's part of life. You go out and buy a new vehicle, you're gonna pay a lot more in sales tax than you pay in town taxes. Yeah, and it's like I said, it's just shifting the burden from one end to the other, which makes no sense to me. We've done that over the years with businesses versus residential, swapped it back and forth. Couple of years, the businesses support the whole burden. Next time it was the homeowners. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and we're getting so close. Average per capita income in Chickamauga, from what I looked up, is around $60,000 a year. We're getting pretty close here. People that are surviving in homes that are making less than that.
Councilmember Johnson, you're up.
I know this has come up, meeting after meeting, and, glad it has, because it's important to discuss, because they are the majority of the people who are having issues where they cannot work anymore, where you're on a fixed income, where, the people that, we say will be burdened by it, people our age who, are able to still work and can afford their medications. It's a real concern for a lot of seniors. I wouldn't say 100% of the seniors. There are a lot that, do very well on their own, but in times where, you do have that burden shifting from the, big businesses paying a large portion of it, then you have places like the Galleria Mall who, are in trouble paying their own taxes. So, a lot of things factor into it, and I think to be able to give, what's allowable by state to, a small group of individuals, I think that would be a show of good faith for us as a town board. And I can tell you, it's not gonna break the bank. The amount of waste in the town that we've all agreed to, you can't put a dollar to that amount, but we all agree there is a lot of waste. And I think unrelated, but although related, getting a controller, somebody to help, Brian Kraus manage a budget that size, there's a lot of areas to make up that difference. So, thank you.
Councilmember Pulaski.
So I've said it over and over that I'm not we've supported this 3 times already, and the 4th, and I know the spin that's going to come of it, of, whoever votes no doesn't support seniors and all that, and I get it. There's a fine line. Where do we stop at the exemptions, for disabled, residents who are collecting Social Security, or the volunteer firefighters, or veterans, or, in this case, senior citizens. There's a fine line to cross there, because all we're doing is really playing a shell game and shifting who's paying that pot of money here, which is our budget. And whether we're talking assessments or we're talking tax rate, it's the budget. That is really a lot of it. And we keep talking, there's some waste here, there's waste there. That's what we should be looking and focusing on, in my opinion. Where do we cut that waste and save the money and not spend money, instead of just shifting money, who's paying what, where, and all that. That's where we're going to make our bigger impact, I believe, just my opinion, or finding alternate funding sources, because tapping into the residents, whether it's a senior citizen or a family with both parents and 3 kids or whatever, we keep going to the same well, being the taxpayer. So how do we find alternate funding sources and foundations? Do we poke shy, for example, who is with the mobile safety net team, or is it, Buffalo Bills Foundation or the Ralph Wilson Foundation, and invest in our parks, stuff like that. Some more philanthropy and more public, private partnerships and stuff like that, because we keep going back to the taxpayers. And it's honorable to say, hey, let's make these cuts, and help support the seniors. But there's so many other groups as well that can fall right into the same line. And where do we end that too? So that's my hold up on it.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, Madam Clerk, we have a roll call vote on the item.
Voting on resolution 2024-478, Councilmember Kukowski. Yes. Councilmember Jazinski.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
No.
Councilmember Pilarski,
No.
Councilmember Thompson,
Yes.
Supervisor Noah,
No.
motion is defeated. Resolution 2024-495, sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmembers Jazinski and Bukowski. The town will determine that it will be in the best interest of the town of Cheektowaga to reduce the number of town council members to 4 members. The town council position will be eliminated as of January 1st, 2026. The town council member position will be eliminated as of January 1st, 2028. Town clerk being hereby is directed to publish an attached notice of adoption of resolution subject to permissive referendum in the Cheektowaga Bee, the town's official newspaper.
All right, other question? Councilmember Pilarski.
I mean, I personally rather not this be voted on right today because I'm not in support of it, not knowing more details and facts. I said at the work session, I'd like us to actually work this out and go over it. Why, what's the intent for it? The purpose, is it to save money? Is it to scale back? Like, what is the intent of it all? The pros, the cons from all of us, how do we view it and all that stuff. I'd rather give this some more thought rather than just shooting it down right now. But I mean, if it's presented right now as is, it's probably not going to pass. I just ask that everybody do some homework on it. I mean, I've handed out a study, or not a study, it's just a report done by someone locally here, Craig Buckeye, who researched the matter and wrote a scholarly article in the Law Journal for it. That's just one article, though. I'm not saying, it's for or against whatever, but you're going to find just the opposite, I'm sure, of what he wrote too, probably. But I'd like to discuss it more. Can we legally do it? Does it have to go to the AG? How does the current pending lawsuit against us go with the award system? There's just so many pieces. How about the residents? How about their input on it? Maybe we hold a public hearing on it and hear from the residents. For us to just shoot from the hip and just say, hey, let's just cut it. I'm not comfortable doing that right now without more work being put into it.
All right, any other council members? Mr. Jazinski.
So Cheektowaga is the only town board in Erie County that has as many board members as us. We always refer to Amherst and use them as an example. They have 5 board members. I definitely think, I agree with Mr. Pilarski in saying that I think the public should have some say in this, and I'd be open to having a public hearing on it.
You say public hearing, do you think in a work session discussion, do it that way, or do you mean it in quite literal way, a public hearing where we do a call for public hearing on the idea of reducing?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd go quite literally also. I would agree with that, yeah, because that may be one of the boxes we have to check to the AG to say, hey, we've gone through the proper motions, and we're already ahead of the game, and we've held a public hearing or 2, whatever the requirements are. We're already moving towards the right direction if we so choose to go this route.
I think we should talk with the attorney after the meeting and get an email rolling and look at our options there when we call, when we set up. Any other council members on this?
Yeah.
Jerry.
Well, relative to what Mr. Pilarski said, I know this was brought up years ago. There are a lot of places made a mistake and cut too much to the point that 2 council members cannot even have coffee together. Problem I've got with this right now is with our pending lawsuit, which I'm assuming if we cut it to 4, we're only going to have 4 wards in the town of Cheektowaga. And I think personally, in my book, and I think Mr. Boric said it earlier at the public comment period, it's going to dilute the voting even more for protected classes. It's just bad timing in my book. Not that I would be totally close to it, but I think we need to get our lawsuit straightened out before we can even entertain this.
Yeah, I would agree with getting the lawsuit and all that issue set aside and dealt with and addressed. We hired experts to draw ward maps for us as part of what we've been dealing with, New York Voting Rights Act situation. And they drew us a 2 different 6-district ward systems for a 7-person. And, we need to talk about whether or not we want to give the public an opportunity to talk about whether or not they want that. And we haven't fully settled that question yet. I know views and opinions have been changing here in the last month. But that's something we got to deal with. Towns like Amherst and Tonawanda years ago had 7-member boards. And Amherst is a larger town than ours. I think a case could be made that a town like Amherst could benefit from 7 members. Could benefit from those 2 extra members with as much work that goes on in that operation. Now, if you're talking about smaller towns, let's say about the size of West Seneca or smaller, I could see a 5-person board. That, they may not have as much going on, as many employees, as many issues, that, as many committees, what it may be, that a place like, not to pick on anybody, but Boston, Alma, Eden, Sardinia, are real small towns. And 5-member boards make sense. I think we learned the lesson of 3 being too small, because any 2 of them show up, you gotta run the opposite way, you know? On a 5-member board, if 3 of us are around, it's a quorum and one of us has to scatter, you know? In our situation, 3 of us can sit down and talk and work through some things. I mean, with this board, I don't think it's a bad idea to have a 7-member board to allow 3 people to sit down around a table and have a cup of coffee, or for those of us who drink, maybe a beer, and start to hash some of these things out in a face-to-face manner like we were doing in the beginning of the year and we're kind of getting away from. I don't think this is the time for this. I'm not adamantly opposed to reducing the board. I never have been. I'm favorable to the 7-member board. I'm open to opinions and considerations. But as it is tonight, I don't know if I'd be able to vote this. I don't think, I wouldn't be voting this. So, anyone else to add? All right, on the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I'm opposed.
Opposed for vote right now.
Do a roll call vote, please. Councilmember Bukowski? Yes. Councilmember Jazinski?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
No.
Councilmember Flaherty?
No.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Noah?
No.
Motion is defeated. We're moving on to the consent agenda. I have a motion from Supervisor Noah and second by Councilmember Kaminsky to approve all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of August 13th, 2024. We will recognize that resolutions 499, 503, 514, 516, and 517 will be moved, and we will take them as separate items. Can I have a motion and a second to accept?
I'll make the motion.
Supervisor Noah, second by Councilmember Bukowski, all in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda items have passed. We are moving on to resolution 2024-499, sponsored by Councilmember Jazinski, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. The Chickawawa Town Board finds that legislation is necessary in order to protect persons from intimidating or harassing behavior. To keep public places safe and attractive for use by all members of the community, and to maintain and preserve public places where all the community can interact in a peaceful manner. This legislation is also intended to provide for the free flow of pedestrian and vehicular traffic on streets and sidewalks in the town of Chickawawa to promote tourism, business, and preserve the quality of suburban life. Public hearing for the proposal of the law is hereby set for September 10th, 2024.
All right, on the question?
I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, Councilmember Jazinski, the floor is yours.
So the intent of this resolution isn't to basically incarcerate people, it's to get them the help they need. You know, when you see somebody asking for change, you know, they probably fell on hard times. You know, they could be a drug addict, maybe somebody lost a job. You know, the intent of this is to, you know, we don't want this to be San Francisco, California either, right? We have a standard in this town and we want to keep it respectable. You know, I can speak for myself on occasions where I've gone to Home Depot and I've been approached by somebody asking for money and I just felt a bit uncomfortable, you know, having my, you know, granddaughter with me and my wife and, you know, just felt very uncomfortable. So I think that, you know, with this, it would definitely be geared towards getting people help. You know, if they're an addict or whatever they're, you know, whatever's going on in their life, maybe getting them the help they need. So plus, you know, we want to keep this town respectful. You know, we should have a standard. You know, people move to the town of Cheektowaga because, hey, you know, it's an all-American city, right? Town. And I think, you know, it keeps it clean and keeps it nice and, you know, keeping these people. Next, you know, we're going to have tents, you know, popping up everywhere. So, I mean, where does it stop? So, I just think it's a good intent to get the people that need help.
All right, anyone else? Councilmember Kaminsky.
Well, I see the intent, but I'm reading it maybe a little bit wrong that you were speaking, Mike. Yeah, it says, but yeah, basically, order to protect persons from threatening, intimidating, or harassing behavior. It says nothing about helping people, and I just wonder, would this also include, say, firemen when they have their annual deal in traffic? Would that be considered panhandling too? I mean, how far do people want to take it? No, don't know. No, and it's like I said, and I agree with Mike in a sense, there aren't too many places you can't go. Doesn't make any difference if it's a hardware store, shopping plaza, pizza joint. It just seems like everybody's out there begging for money for something. I guess basically everybody is poverty stricken today, but go to New York City, a panhandler on the street can make $600 to $700 a day with no effort. You know, it's like I said, you know, that's why I just kind of misunderstood what you were saying, Mike.
Anyone else on this? I've got a few thoughts, but I'm willing to wait. Yeah, so I think this is well intended. I'm gonna vote to move to the public hearing. And
I agree.
there's pieces of this where I think it's self-evident and obvious. There's other parts where it kind of begs the question, like the idea of the volunteer firemen, let's say William and Harlem with the boots out, you know, that there might be unintended consequences of what does this do to restrict that activity, and then you have to enforce, because we're talking about certain behaviors. We're not talking about the different types of people. We're not exempting this group or that group or the other group. So we gotta have some of that stuff out there. And there's certain language about private property that I just want to get a second opinion on. I have got to say, though, that this seems fairly well researched as a foundation of something to discuss. And I'm all right with a public hearing. I would hope that after the public hearing, we hear what people have to say and their comments and their concerns. And we put an amendment version of this local law through, if we're going to put it through at all, because I can see some changes that I think need to be made. And I'm not going to pretend to be a lawyer up here. We got to talk to Lawman and some of the experts here about exactly how we word this to make sure comments from public hearing come in and all that, to get to the right answer without having these unintended consequences. Let's say folks that are trying to sell newspapers, the Buffalo News at the intersections for the next year or two that may be open, you know? Is that a behavior we want to prohibit? You know, we want to prohibit the firemen. So we just got to make sure we work those details out. Yes.
You know, this certainly has the intent to keep a nice, clean town and stop our residents or people in passing in town to feel uncomfortable or harassed. I did speak to the chief briefly about this, and, you know, he's mentioned some initiatives that they have in place that they're doing to curb a lot of these things. So, you know, whether we add language to this to perfect it, to get it to where I think it's a good point. Not sure if the chief wanted to touch base on that at all. Don't mind. Hey.
So I see both sides of, you know, I see the intent of it, and then I also see the other side. So we approach a lot of times with the panhandling and the homelessness, we approach that with our behavioral health. And we go that matter, working with the resources within the town and the county, trying to get the people set up for, you know, homes, whatever the needs that they have. The other side of this is that, you know, there has to be some discretion on our part allowed to us as well, because, you know, sometimes we have train jumpers that come off, and then if we're dealing with them, a lot of times we have additional issues such as decontamination of the officers, the cars, the cell block, and so forth. You know, a lot of times it's more just kind of get them back on the train and send them down the road. So, yes, I mean, you could put this to hearing, but there's also laws that are in place now. A lot of the times harassment will fill this, stalking, state did repeal the loitering law regarding this. But again, it could be another tool for us. Private property, we dealt with twice today at Thruway Plaza, panhandlers. But without, we have a trespass, a blanket agent form, we call them, that's signed by the owners of Thruway Plaza. That gives us the authority to make that arrest, because otherwise it's private property. So there's lots of things that, and I'll be willing to sit down with all of you and to sort this out and what's the best path going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And that was the one, I think it was like point H on private property, residential or otherwise, unless the panhandler is in physical possession of a written permission of the owner or other lawful. I would like to see if that isn't in any other localities and how that gets enforced. But this is something I'd say we take it to public hearing, we see what people have to say, and we work from there. So, anyone else? So we'll take a vote on it, on the question. All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Carries.
There was resolution 499, to resolution 2024-503, sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Supervisor Noah. By resolution dated April 18th, 2016, this town board adopted local law number 3 of the year 2016, entitled "The Local Law to Amend a Local Law Relating to Vehicles Removal and Storage." Town code was amended to provide that rental rates would be established from time to time by town board resolution. The rental rates to be established under section 241-3.1B of the town code, and fee schedules to be established under 241-15 being hereby are amended.
Right. On the question, this was discussed a little bit at the work session and spoke with the chief of police about this prior. There's a desire here to add a police vehicle rate. So I'd like to make an amendment under the section rental rates paid by the town of Cheektowaga, which is the first section of rates on the resolution. Under the line additional personnel to expedite situation, I'd like to add the line police vehicles rate at the dollar amount of $175 per hour. You have that, clerk?
I do.
So I'm making a proper motion to amend this. Is there a second? Second from Councilmember Thompson. All, yes.
Go ahead, Chief.
Oh,
So
I'm just looking down, you know,
It's okay, that's fine. It would actually be 175 per tow.
per toe.
Not.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry, I
Where do I
misspoke.
sign up?
That is critical. So my,
Currently, we're paying 225.
okay,
With the new rates, it'd be going up to 295.
Ernie was like, okay.
I know.
he's just sitting there quiet.
So,
Yes.
I met with Mr. Rusniak and talked to him about it, and
Okay.
he was amenable to giving us that fixed rate, instead of having that daytime rate and nighttime rate. It's a constant rate with the savings to the town. We've had to have 8 of our police cars towed so far this year. It was just about used up our entire towing budget, so this will be a saving.
Yeah, so that 175 per hour would have killed the budget even more, huh?
Yes.
So, I'd like my amendment recognized to reflect the word tow rather than hour. You okay with that, Councilman? All right. All in favor of the amendment to put police vehicles at 175 per tow? Any opposed? All right, the resolution is amended. All right, I'd like to make a motion to pass the resolution as amended. Is there a second? Second from Councilmember Kaminsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The deed is done.
Resolution 503 is carried. Resolution 2024-514 is sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Jazinski. Town board hereby creates the position of town controller pursuant to town law 23B. Supervisor is authorized and directed to post the position, offer
right? So we have the mover on the resolution is Councilmember Thompson, but Councilmember Pilarski, would you like to be recognized? Would you like to speak first on it, or can I give the floor to her?
Sure.
All right, Councilmember Pilarski, floor is yours.
I would like to amend it to get rid of the last resolve that we're gonna direct you to post it and call for applicants. Just create the position right now, and then we gotta figure out the details of how much, where the funding's coming from, et cetera. So just eliminate that last resolve.
Okay, so is that a proper motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Do we have a
remove the
second?
Second resolve.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta put it.
All right, Councilmember Kaminsky is a second on the amendment. We agree to strike the final resolve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Just want to speak on the amended item. As written initially, I had an issue with us passing this resolution because I wanted to learn a little bit more about what we're expecting in terms of duties and how that would work with the finance director and all that. But two things happened here that I'm willing to take this a lot more seriously than I was 20 minutes ago. One, we were discussing the idea of bringing this position in and possibly having them work with a finance director. That's kind of like the model that's going on in Amherst right now. Amherst has a comptroller. They also have a director of finance, and both of those individuals are there managing the financial affairs of the town. Town of Tonawanda also has a comptroller. I don't know if they have a finance director along with that. I just know that they have a comptroller that they appoint to 2-year terms. I'd like to learn a little bit more about what the salary would be expected for this. I know it was brought up earlier that there wasn't paperwork submitted on the civil service side to move this along in a more formal way. So, and between wanting to learn more about what we're expecting, are we going to keep our finance director, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like this would be an additional position, not a replacement position. Is that correct? That's what I gathered earlier in the meeting. So, I'd like to make a motion to table it, and that way we could spend the next 2 weeks talking a little bit more about this. Is there a second to table? Second from Councilmember Kaminsky.
Resolution 514 is tabled. Resolution 2024-516 is sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Mark Vierfeld was appointed to the provisional position of Senior Engineering Assistant on April 6, 2022. Mark Vierfeld being hereby is to remain in his current position as a provisional Senior Engineering Assistant.
Okay. On the question,
Call it for a roll call vote.
all right? There's a request for a roll call vote.
And roll call vote. That is Councilmember Bukowski.
No.
Councilmember Jazinski.
No.
Councilmember Kaminsky.
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski.
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson.
No.
Supervisor Noah.
Yes.
Motion is defeated. Resolution 2024-517, sponsored by Supervisor Noah, seconded by Councilmember Kaminsky. Vacancy exists in the position of working crew chief in the Facilities Department for the Parks Division. Matthew Hooker of Chickawaga, New York, being hereby is appointed to the position of working crew chief in the Facilities Department in accordance with the terms and conditions of the town's collective bargaining agreement with the Town of Chickawaga Supervisory Unit, effective August 28, 2024.
All right. On the question, we have competing resolutions on this position once again. And we had a little bit of discussion between meetings about this. This resolution in particular, I believe I brought it to your attention, Councilmember Thompson, that this was coming, just to give you the heads up on it. A couple weeks back, we had a resolution up for Justin Hensler. We had some discussions about about him and another candidate later on in the resolution packet here. I know if we kept going back and forth with those two names, we weren't going to get anywhere. I'm looking to find a name we can compromise, some type of consensus here, how to solve this issue. And in the interviews, Matt Hooker was somebody that really stood out, that has got a skill set and had the ability to teach people what he's learned over the years. And not just his work with the town, but outside of it in this field. One of the things that came up in the last month, talking to town employees and discussions on this job was ask the workers what they want. And in asking the workers who they want, a lot of names were brought up. You know, Justin's name was brought up, Mark Mess's name was brought up, but Matt Hooker's name was also brought up. So, in listening to the workers and thinking about a candidate that maybe we can all get behind, that was the intent I had in putting Matthew Hooker's name forward. And I think if he were given this position this evening and effective tomorrow, that he would make this town proud. So that's all I got to say about this. Any other council members? We got Jazinski and then Thompson.
I know this is a tall ask here, but at least among us, if we can try, when it comes to positions like this that are competitive amongst the board, I don't like that we sit here and we discuss, you know, we're toying with these people essentially. You know, we're saying, oh, this person's great for this position, and we go back and forth saying why they're not. You know, if we don't have some sort of consensus, whether through an email chain, I personally don't want to vote on these positions if we're gonna go back and forth, and I just hate to do that to, you know, the people that are involved, whether it's somebody that I want for the job or don't want for the job. I mean, I'm sure they expect it at this point, working for the town, but I don't think it's a good practice. That's just me personally. I think it's safe to say everybody on this board probably knew that the two resolutions that we have, we're not going to agree on one or the other. I don't know. That's just how I feel on it.
Councilmember Jazinski?
So I'm just reading the minimum qualifications for this position. Elementary school education and 2 years of experience in construction, maintenance work, or in operation and maintenance of motor equipment. Verifiable part-time and or volunteer experience will be prorated toward meeting full-time experience requirements. So personally, I think we need to utilize Matt for a different position. I think he holds too much of a skill set. I think he would do the town more justice. We need electricians. He has that background. We need plumbers. I personally think that Matt is an overqualified candidate. I think he's a good candidate, but I think we're not utilizing him to his full capacity and what this gentleman can do. Personally, I think we should consider him for positions, an electrician or something higher up the food chain, because I think he's an outstanding candidate. And I don't think it would be fair to us not to utilize him for his full capacity and what his capabilities are.
Any other comments? Councilmember Pulaski?
I couldn't agree with Vern more. I mean, we come up here throwing names on resolutions, we're pitting candidates against each other. Let's say we all agreed today for a candidate, then it's gonna become internal issues saying, oh yeah, you're actually choice number 4, 5, 6. They only settled for you, you know? That's not what we should be doing up here. I mean, I said it last meeting, we're just throwing names up here. I say we pull both resolutions because we don't have a consensus on it, and we shouldn't be getting into that bickering up here, especially with names already out there. I mean, we can't even refer to them as candidate A and B. Like, it's already out there, and it's a hot mess right now.
I can just add,
Yeah.
I agree with you, Brian, but the thing is that Barb, myself, and Vern haven't switched from who we think is, you know, right for this job. I think Mark Maz should get the job. I think he deserves it. He's got 12 letters of recommendation. Not taking anything away from Matt. I think Matt's an exceptional candidate, but, you know, I think this is more geared for somebody like Mark. Matt's skill set's a whole different level, and I think that, you know, we haven't changed our position with Mark Maz. I think, you know, here we have something to do, something great tonight. Let's do what's right. Let's give the man who had 12 letters of recommendation the position, and let's put Matt into where his skill set will match his background. Let's put him in a position where, you know, it's parallel to what he does, because personally, just knowing his background, I think he'd get awfully complacent and bored in this job, because I don't think he'd be challenged to his full capabilities.
Yeah, when it comes to how we fill these positions, we obviously have a disagreement on who should get this position now. So the idea of pulling both these resolutions tonight and not continuing discussion on the merits of the candidates, I'm all for that. But these discussions are happening publicly because we disagree. And the rest, because competing resolutions have got filed. I mean, we just had a resolution where these items got put out on Wednesday without a discussion, an email, anything. The resolution goes down to defeat 3-3. There's an opportunity to deal with that prior to minutes ago. So it's a lead by example kind of situation. And for my purposes, as I said, we have to move this discussion along in a way that we find consensus. I don't think we're gonna find consensus with the first two names that were put up. That was made clear. So we have to have some more discussion about what do we do with this. And I don't want us to see it a spot at 2 weeks where we're stuck again. I really hope between this meeting and the next that we can figure out something about what are we going to do here. Maybe we need to re-interview a handful of candidates. And maybe we need to find a compromise answer. That's my intent with this, is to find a consensus and listen to other people about what they would like to see. And it's not to toy with insurance. I would hope in the future that we don't see this happening. It's happened in the past in this town. I do think it'll happen in the future, and it's not the best chapter of this board, but I gotta say, I think we're dealing with this and a lot of other issues a lot better tonight than we have in previous meetings. So from here, I would support pulling the item. If we can mutually agree, we pull the other resolution. And we have to go back to the drawing board and talk about how we fill this position, because it's been empty for about 2 months at this point.
Too long.
It's too long.
So
So
there's somebody working this position out, right?
there's somebody filling it on a temporary basis.
Right.
But
It's not empty.
we have other empty positions in the department, and and they're being posted. Like, if we could fill this position, we'd be able to post other jobs and get the department fully staffed. We're running shorthanded because of not making a decision on this item. So I'll make the motion to pull it.
Right, me, Brian?
Sure.
I think the biggest thing, and, maybe I look at this from a business standpoint. I realize the town of Chickawaga is not a business. We're there to provide services in the best possible way we can. And I agree with Mike. One fella got some fantastic letters of recommendation. They were all about his character, not his aptitude, his knowledge, or the ability to do the job.
Same thing, we just, can you please talk to, a different point? Because we're doing exactly what we are now, is discussing people's flaws or inability for a position.
That's not right.
And
I
that's,
mean, we got two
I'm not
quality
talking about
people.
other
guys.
flaws, Rick.
I'm talking about the procedure. Well, that big thing,
Just pull it.
Okay.
I'll second it to be pulled, supervisor.
Well, so
not trying to be a jerk, I'm just saying, we just talked about not saying people's inabilities to do positions for some reasons.
Make the motion, I second it.
Well, you typically, when items get pulled, the two movers on the resolutions, motion and second to poll. If there's disagreement there, usually those go forward to be tabled, consideration for tabling or to be voted down. I'll make the motion to poll. Councilmember Kaminsky, would you support that?
Yep, I'll second it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. The item's polled.
Item 517 has been pulled. We are now looking at suspension of the rules. I made a motion and a second to waive the rules to include resolution items 2024-527, 528, 529, and 530. These items are not part of the agenda unless you agree to make them first. I have a motion and a second.
Make the motion.
Second? Anybody?
I'll second.
Councilmember Pilarski. We have resolution 527.
right?
Resolution 2024-527 is sponsored by Councilmember Jazinski, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. Vacancy exists in the position of working crew chief in the Facilities Department, Parks Division, Mark Massachusetts, New York, being and hereby is appointed to the position of working crew chief in the Facilities Department in accordance with the terms and conditions of the town's collective bargaining agreement with the Town of Chickawaga Supervisory Unit effective August 28, 2024.
All right, on the question?
I'd like to call for a roll call vote.
Oh, you guys are pulling it. Sorry, can you just agree 2 minutes
We had to
ago?
waive the rules. That was on the agenda items. This is,
But did you just agree
on the
2 minutes
waivers.
ago that you were going to pull
he
this?
can make the motion. He can make.
You
the
are a
motion.
snake.
Okay, look in the mirror, bro.
It's okay, we'll vote no on it now.
We just-
You are playing.
Hold on.
games.
We discussed earlier pulling a resolution. Councilmember Kaminsky and I in good faith pulled our item. And this is the issue with this board, is that we do these things and work in good faith. And if something like this happens.
Well, we'll pull it then, okay? I'll second it. Did you call for? So shouldn't.
Is there a motion by the movers to pull the item? Motion by
I'll second.
Councilmember Thompson, second by Councilmember Jazinski.
Go with the insults, Brian.
Item is pulled. Resolution 2024-528 is sponsored by Councilmember Jazinski, seconded by Councilmember Thompson. Resolution 2023-670 requiring the town of Chickawaga to conduct a cyclical townwide reassessment beginning with the year 2025 roll year. The aforementioned resolution dated December 12, 2023, that's resolution 2023-670, and hereby is rescinded in its entirety.
On the question?
To have a
Oh,
question.
Councilmember Thompson's on the resolution, we're let go first.
So we discussed, resolutions that affect us earlier. So see the 670 resolution in question. Is that these reassessment projects shall be conducted at least every 4 years, with the next reassessment project to be completed for the 2028 assessment roll year. So this is looking to be done every 4 years. Is that correct? Anybody speak to that?
Who's the mover on the resolution?
2023-670?
Yeah, the mover and the second, who are they?
It was you and Michael.
Yeah, I'll speak to it a bit. There was a plan, it was mentioned earlier in the year at this board to do a townwide reassessment in 2025. And the reason it mentions 2028 is that would be the one following that. So it was understood when the resolution was written that one would be done in 2025. That's why it's not explicitly stated there. And then the one after that would be 2028. So the intent at the time was every 4 years. Councilmember Pilarski?
Like I said earlier at the work session for this one, I'm not comfortable rescinding the resolution. I would support amending it if we wanted to push it a year or two instead of saying, the next one's in 2025 to say, hey, 2026, 2027, whatever that may be, just so it's still there, because if we rescind it, then there's nothing, and then it's a whole battle of do we do it or don't, or what is our plan? What, surprises to the residents, all that stuff. So at least then we just pause it, I guess, to say would be the best way, in my opinion.
The worry I have with putting this off for a year or two is the idea of having a plan. From 2019, even through last year, we've done things as a board not to have something systematic or as a plan, Most of the states, and I think I mentioned this in the work session, I think this is something that they get right in red states, generally speaking, that they have assessments on the book on a cyclical basis, whether it's every 3 years, every 4 years, every 5 years. They run their assessor's office at a countywide or statewide reassessment based on the state schedule, New York is kind of an exception because we're an older state and our system goes back to colonial time, gives the local government the power to do this stuff. What I liked about the resolution that was passed 2023-670 is it got us on the idea of a plan that would get us out 5 years. That way people know what they can count on. That what's happening in 25, 26, 27. The 100%, the benefit of that is that, you're getting the most up to date, the most accuracy you possibly can. It comes with a price, and doing nothing, you get the situation like was mentioned in Elma, that two houses next to each other, one is assessed in a way that the tax bill's several $100s more than the other. I don't want to see us go that direction. So, I would, I'd like to see us table this item and take it up in 2 weeks. And when we do that, if there's a desire for amendment, to at least have some type of amended language clarified at that time. I want us to look into this a little bit more, because maybe with some discussion between the 2 weeks, we can get an entirely different amendment on this that there's broad board support for, that can give the public a plan that they count on. So that way these type of things aren't happening over and over again. So anyone else want to speak on the item? I'd like to make a motion after discussion to table, but is there anyone else that wants to talk about it?
Who knows if the market will crash in 4 years, then your house is gonna be overassessed, right?
I'll make a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Kolarski, it's tabled.
Resolution 528 is tabled. Resolution 2024-529, sponsored by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Supervisor Noah. Morgan Ebert, Krista Holt, Emma Lindries, and Gabrielle Custard. Students at Hobart College have requested to participate in the student internship program at the police department. These internships being and hereby are effective August 30th, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Twenty 2024-530 is sponsored by Councilmember Kaminsky, seconded by Supervisor Noah. The New York State Education Department, Division of Library Development, under the Public Library Construction Grant Program, is offering funds up to 50% of approved costs for renovation and rehabilitation of public libraries in New York State. Town of Chickawaga is the owner of the land and building housing the Town of Chickawaga Public Library Anna M. Reinstein Branch, located at 2580 Harlem Road in the Town of Chickawaga, and maintains such building under an agreement with the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library System. Structural components are in need of improvement, and the flat roofs are in need of replacement. Projected cost of the above mentioned project shall not exceed $397,496, where if said grant is approved, the cost of the Town of Chickawaga will not exceed $198,732.50. Which has been previously allocated by the town board during the capital improvement project work session in June of 2023.
All right, Councilmember Kaminsky, so move on the item. Would you like to speak first or at all?
No, I think I'm pretty well set on that. Spent a lot of time talking to Kolarski about it. And it's something, needs to be done. I think this is the way to do it. Nothing's getting any newer out there.
Yeah, this is an item that I had a chance to speak with Dan from the library system a few weeks back about general plans with this. The moment I was made aware of specifics on contracts and what pricing would be, I reached out to a council member, so that way, because something like this comes up on the suspension of rules. We've had this issue with some of these items. Well, where did this come from? Who was talked to? What did you know when? As soon as I learned, I put in a phone call to make sure that was on your radar, Barbara. This is something that we talked about doing last year. It's stated in the resolution. That library is over 50 years old. There's water damage associated with already. We really need to get this work done. And Councilmember Thompson and I had a conversation about this earlier today. If there's any other questions on this, I hope we take the time we have here to work through this. I'd really like to see us apply for this grant and really move this project along. Any other council members?
Yeah, I'm just curious, the libraries is one of my committees, why wouldn't I be sponsored on the resolution?
This was something that was was brought to my attention through engineering. And I just got the resolution introduced as soon as it was mentioned to me. I did reach out to other council members. I think respectfully, I think over the last 8 months of these meetings, it would be understood why this, something like that, I wouldn't reach out to you first on something like this.
Did you?
But this is something that came through the engineering department and not through the library.
It is under the libraries committee though, right?
And there was an email that went out to every board member. So you had an opportunity to reach out if you had questions earlier. It pertains to libraries, but it's an engineering related.
Right, but I'm just curious, and I'm asking the question now, so people can understand why wasn't I put on the resolution if it's my committee?
Would you like to be put on the resolution now?
Well, I think this sounds fair, but I haven't had time to, research it because I wasn't aware of it, because I didn't get notified, because it's my committee.
The email came out to the entire board at the same time earlier today. It's-
1:42.
Earlier today when I was at work,
And there
right?
was yesterday,
1:42 PM.
and there was an email,
1:42 PM, I'm at my regular job,
So was I.
right?
there was an
But
email.
you own your job, you own your business, I don't.
There was an email yesterday at 4:30 that explained this and that there was going to be a resolution forthcoming as well.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to pull this resolution just based off the fact that I wasn't put on the resolution.
But it came from engineering, Mike.
Yeah, but I mean, why wouldn't it be on it?
Because it came from engineering.
Yeah, so why wouldn't they write it up with the committee members?
Are you on engineering?
No, I'm on libraries.
That's what I'm saying. It came from
Gentlemen.
engineering.
Right, it doesn't matter who designs.
Guys, hey, right. First of all, I agree with Mike, he should have been contacted about this. And I'm sure
It's on waivers too.
it's,
Yes,
it's
there was-
something that I would hope going forward. I know he's only on a few committees. But I think out of respect and, we've had a lot of discussions about, going back and forth and disagreements, but, that's a perfect example. It's a grant, we're matching funds that were obtained through bonding last year. I think we owe it the respect to at least call him and say, even if it was engineering, so he's in the loop. I can't see that conversation going sideways, but I understand, past practices, but I just want to speak my piece and say, I'm sure Michael's more than willing to, support this, but I think you should have had the respect to
We can
go that route.
We can have a conversation about the respect between Councilmember Jazinski and I between these meetings. I do appreciate you recognizing past practices. That said, we had an email yesterday, we had an email today. I spoke to Jerry about this, I called both of you about this to make you aware, and when I spoke to Robert, at least I said, can you reach out to Michael and Vern? Make sure that Michael was aware of it. There's no secret about where we are as a board in some of these particular relationships. I want to get us to a better place.
We're all smart. We see the big picture. It's easy to say.
So,
Oh, I thought somebody would tell him.
well, there was sufficient information, well, let me say it this way.
You're speaking on opinion only, right? So I know myself, I work during the day. When this email came out, I can't just stop during my regular job and stop and go on my laptop for the town board and look up an email that came in under the wire. I mean, if it would have came in a day before or over the weekend, sure, I would have had time to consider it.
But the email was yesterday afternoon, so we had all
Yes,
yesterday.
yesterday afternoon, right?
Yeah.
During
So,
working hours.
all right, so what's the board's appetite as far as this item goes? I'd really like to, me personally, I don't want to see us pull this. I'd like to have us to have an up and down vote, whether or not we're gonna apply for this grant money for a 50% match to repair the roof on the library in the building that the town owns.
I think we're fully, if we don't, it's like throwing money away. That's simple.
I'll call for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Kirkowski?
Yes.
Councilmember Jazinski?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Yes.
Councilmember Pilarski?
Yes.
Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Supervisor Noah?
Yes.
Motion is passed. There are no further resolution items. Town clerk's office did not receive any environmental communications since our last meeting, but we did receive 3 notices of claim.
Supervisors' comments, just some updates. The town hall move. The hope was to get us into council chambers sometime in September. That's not gonna happen. We're gonna be in the courts through the month of September. The big thing holding us back at that point is right now is the installation of audio equipment. You get video monitors in as well. And even when we can get that equipment installed, our IT department needs just a little bit of time to train on it to make sure that at our first meeting, we've got the kinks worked out before. So that equipment is set to be installed sometime next month. I want to say in the second week of September, maybe the third, be some training after that. So the hope is our first meeting in October, we'll be back in council chambers. And next up, the shelter at Raymond Park. That was completed in the last few days. The tennis courts over at Town Park, some of you may have seen that fencing has been taken down there. And there's work underway. The plan is to put asphalt replacement on the court. They're gonna put some concrete around the border, to deal with, long-term treatment in terms of weeds and all that. And once it's all complete, there's gonna be a fence that's back up and the court's gonna be blue. So the fencing is gonna get started as early as this Friday. The plan is Friday, next Tuesday and Wednesday. Paving will be done in short order. So by the time we get past Labor Day and into the early part of September, you should see a big improvement on those tennis courts that are being worked on. German Fest is this weekend, and Friday the time is 5 to 10 o'clock. Saturday it's noon to 9. There's bands both nights. Admission is $5 to get in, so that'll be in Town Park over the weekend. Check that out. Veterans Resource Fair is this Thursday. I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder. I'll let you guys share the details. My office got a call today. I don't know if this person's listening, but I didn't have a phone number to call back about a property on Danielle with a code enforcement issue in tall grass. Just want to let that person know, if they're listening, that we got that over to code enforcement to work on getting the issues that were shared with us rectified. There's a story in the Cheektowaga Bee about Elizabeth Haynes, one of the history teachers here in town. She's at Cleveland Health. She got the 2024 New York History Teacher of the Year Award from the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History. I think it's really cool anytime somebody gets recognized as a statewide leader on their profession and craft. We've got, we all agree up here, we've got some of the best people working for the town, and working in our town and living in our community. It's really cool to see somebody recognized, especially in the field of history. There's paving underway in the Vales. We took care of streets off of George Irvin recently. So you're probably going to see our trucks heading north and south on Union Road, working on all of that. NYSEG smart meters. Who hasn't seen a NYSEG smart meter news advertisement at this point, or a news article, or anything like that? I know there's been a lot about smart meters getting put in and then electric bills jackknifing. I wanted to make everybody aware of a in-person meeting with NYSEG folks on September 26th. That's a Thursday at the West Seneca Public Library. Probably know where it is. Address is 1300 Union Road. If you don't, the time's going to be 4:30 to 6:30. And in terms of a phone number you can call if you're having building issues or problems with these smart meters, or if you want to opt out, the number I've got here is 1-800-572-1111. That's 1-800-572-1111. And lastly, I think it almost went sideways. I think we had a lot better of a meeting here this evening. And I think that's a testament to all of us holding our fire, and being cool and calm-headed, and maybe reflecting on what happened at the last meeting and realizing we needed to do something a bit different here. It's always going to be a little testy and a little bit of friction. I expect that to happen. And we got a place to come back from where it's been rough at some of these. I think this has been one of our better ones. I like being on a board where I've got differences of opinion and disagreements with people. I think it's great because sometimes the ideas that get brought up get me to rethink my positions and think about what people in the town want. So I think that we can disagree without being disagreeable. And we almost started going in the wrong direction here, and I want to thank everybody that kind of pulled us back from the brink on that one. With that, any council member comments?
Just a
briefly, I'm glad we pulled the 2 resolutions regarding hiring that working crew chief. Because we all have our own opinions and that a lot of that should be done behind closed doors as we're hashing things out and not openly being disrespectful to the candidates. Second, it's going to be a very busy week. I want to say a big thank you to all the Cheektowaga town employees. So with that, there is going to be a luncheon tomorrow, appreciation lunch, from 10:30 to 3:30.
That's right,
at the
10:30 to
senior-
3:30.
Senior Center, correct?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, Senior Center. Then Thursday is at Cheektowaga Town Park is the big Veterans Resource Fair. This is going to be awesome. We're going to have any kind of information that veterans need. There's a lot of veterans out there that had some glitches trying to get into the VA hospital and other types of resources. So we're going to have many vendors there that's going to have a wealth of information. But it's not limited to veterans, families as well. And there's going to be entertainment and then fireworks at dusk. And Dermot Fest this weekend, Friday and Saturday. That's it.
I'm gonna head right down the aisle. Councilmember Thompson, do you have any comments?
Sure. You know, piggyback off what I just said previously about, you know, us trying to move in the right direction and using our actions instead of just our words. I stand by that, and we're not going to agree on everything, but if we can take small tokens to try and show a little bit of respect for our positions that we all hold. You know, it's not fun and easy most of the time, but I think it's something we need to strive for based on, you know, the last few meetings. Constructive disagreements are encouraged, and we're not going to agree on everything. We shouldn't. You know, there's a lot of things that come up, you know, such as the budgets. There's a lot of budgets that are being prepared right now by our department heads. So there's going to be a lot of discussions about that coming up soon. One thing I can't speak to too much. I know Jerry, I'll defer to him after this. We had one of our department heads pass away this past weekend.
Yes.
I just want to keep him in our prayers, you know, I'll leave it at that. You know, most people do have heard or have known about it, but I just want to keep his friends and family in our prayers. So that's all I have.
Councilmember Kaminsky, any comments?
I'm good.
Councilmember Jazinski.
Yes. I'm just sad that we didn't pass the senior exemption tonight. I think Cheektowaga has a problem with their taxes, and I do think we need to work on all classes. I think we need to work on taxes across the board in this town. I will pigtail off what Councilmember Thompson and Mr. Nowak said, that, yeah, this was one of the better meetings, and, you know, we almost made it. We almost got there. You know, I only got one insult tonight, so I think we're trending in the right direction. But other than that, I think, you know, we need to hold our own and bite our tongue sometimes, and self-constraint is a learned, you know, it's a learned trade. And, I think if we can hold board meetings like we did tonight, I think we're trending in the right direction. Because spirited debate is what people want, but respecting each other, and, you know, we're here to hold each other accountable, and it's up to the people in this town to hold us accountable. So for what happened tonight, I think we're trending in the right direction, and I hope we can continue this moving forward.
Councilmember Pilarski.
Kind of piggybacking off what Councilmember Bukowski had said, this Thursday, Veterans Resource Fair event going on at Town Park. It is family friendly, encourage all to attend, even if you're not a veteran. Kids games, live music, fireworks at dusk. A lot of work put in by the Veterans Affairs Committee in Cheektowaga and many others that aren't even part of the committee, stepping up and helping out with this event. But Art Vanderbush and Greg Zarpa, the two lead on this event, God bless them. I just hope one of them don't have a heart attack before Thursday, because they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. So if you do see those guys, I mean, thank them, but definitely please stop by the event on Thursday. Hopefully it's well attended. 40+ vendors there to help veterans get the resources they rightfully deserve and are entitled to. But like we said, it's not just veterans. I mean, come by. there's food trucks, there's live music and fireworks and kids games.
All right. With that, we have 4 signed up for public comment. First is Gary Borick.
Well, I commend and thank our inspector for getting on that piece of property right away. However, during his presentation, he said something that piqued my interest. That property is going to foreclosure on the Erie County foreclosure list, and they haven't paid the taxes for the last year either. It's going to foreclosure for the 21, 22, and 23 years. And our own website shows that the 24 tax hasn't been paid. I don't know if that makes a difference. Somebody buys the property and we're about to tear it down, or if maybe we shouldn't tear it down, maybe it's whoever buys it, I don't know, but maybe that's something you want to look into, to clarify. I don't know how that impacts what we do.
Take a look.
The
You
other,
have a quick comment?
Did you say that they were up to date on their taxes
The
paid?
information I was handed in, they were, it could be I was handed wrong.
yeah, if you look on the town's website, go to, the billing, where it shows the bills,
Yeah.
you'll see the current tax bills unpaid. And if you look at the Erie County, 172, I think, is the foreclosure list. You'll see that it's on the foreclosure list for 3 years prior to that. There's also a piece of property on Allen Street on the foreclosure list that hasn't paid taxes since 2009. I don't know why that happens, but, yeah. We can get the county to act on these things sooner. The other thing I want to mention is that I think you ought to start working on an Airbnb regulatory law. We're going to start having some problems with parties and things. We don't have anything that regulates that. I think we should. Lastly,
Without taking any of your time, we do have something in the works there, so. you gotta- Sorry to interrupt you, but
all right. I
don't take
paused
his
it
time
for
away. You pause? Okay.
But lastly, and you guys are gonna like this, but you had that resolution the other time, we were talking about appointments to the committees, and I think you're right, Brian, it's solely presently under state law in the jurisdiction, although you guys could pass a local law if you wanted to change that. However, when researching that, I came across a guide issued by the New York State Department of State, by our Secretary of State, and in that guide, he's talking about that, and he says that those committee meetings are subject to the open meetings law. So you're gonna be getting a letter from me asking for dates and times so that I can attend those meetings under the open meetings law. Thank you.
Hey, next speaker is Tony Filipski. It's okay if I call you Tony? You had,
You can call me anything you want.
okay. I just say it was different on
I've
the
been
list.
called a lot, so don't worry about it. All right, I may need an extra minute or two when we get to it. I'm representing the Bellevue Fire District. I'm the chairman of the Board of Fire Commissioners. This is in regards to the ambulance study, or what we were told was an ambulance study. We are not happy with it. It seems to be that they took a lot of shots, especially at Bellevue, and there's a lot of wrong information. There's a lot of lies. Excuse me, there's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of stats that anybody could have got. I would like to give a few examples. Like first off, it says Bellevue, the fire company, one of their funding sources is selling plates of food. I don't know where they got that. We don't do that. We've never done that. Maybe in 1940 when it was first built, but not since I've been there in 33 years. We don't sell food there. Not plates of food. It says Bellevue, the only drug we carry is Narcan. That's not true. We have oxygen and EpiPens. Other fire companies that they listed said their drugs were oxygen and EpiPens and this and that and Narcan. Why they left that out for us, I don't know. So in section 4, where it says fire companies should only respond to more serious EMS calls unless there's a delayed response. That was the purpose of the study, the ambulance delayed response. So I don't get where that came from. And part of the problem is the ambulance always has a delayed response. It's not the crew's fault. We have no problem with the crews. It's a corporation, the management, it's a bottom line business. It says if the home department's unavailable, use mutual aid. We've always done that. It's automatic. The ambulance company is supposed to call mutual aid. They don't. As a fire chief, whoever's in charge from the fire company, if they say Bellevue, there's no ambulance available, We cannot call for an ambulance. We cannot say, give me LVAC, give me this, give me that. We can't do that. AMR in the contract is only allowed to call mutual aid, and they don't, because they're gonna lose money. Consider having EMS take-home vehicles. So at about $60,000 a vehicle, after insurance and equipment, about $100,000 per vehicle, who's buying them? We're not. We can barely afford what we have now. And we're not raising taxes to let people take home SUVs. We're not Long Island. Limit lights and siren response to serious calls. Well, we already have procedures in place to respond to incidents, how to. And the other thing, how do you know what a serious call is?
Can I make a motion to extend for 2 more minutes?
Sure.
Thank you. Section 5 says consider non-for-profit establishing a partnership with LVAC or a municipal ambulance service. I was in meetings with LVAC 2 years ago. And also, you were at the meeting, Mr. Supervisor at Forks, remember Brad Pinsky was there, talking about a municipal service, how to do it, the cost, the startup. He had like a 45-minute presentation. Like I said, I met with LVAC, Lancaster Volunteer Ambulance Corps, for those who don't know, about a possibility of starting like a tri-town EMS service, Lancaster, Cheektowaga, Depew. Getting everybody together. Granted, it was on the ground floor, it was just the beginning. I was told by the police chief that the police are in charge of EMS and they were gonna take care of the study because he couldn't do anything to change anything until we had a study. So that went nowhere. I'm trying to speed up quickly. On page 2, they're lying about staffing levels, that they have 3 paramedics, 4 paramedics, 2 EMTs, this, that. They don't have anything in this town. How they're getting away with it is they start their shift on Duke Road and then they go. So they're not in this town. They don't, by contract, they don't have to have an ambulance in town since the last contract was changed. It says if Bellevue can't respond, they then request AMR if needed. If AMR can't, that goes back to the mutual aid thing again. It's just a lie. For decades, the ambulance has been dispatched with the fire companies automatically. It goes on in different pages, page 28, 29, 33, Highview, Pine Hill, Sloan. If they can't meet their minimum staffing levels, they should call AMR to respond. I don't know where they got this information from, it's wrong. Pine Hill has fly cars, they do not. AMR has amended the initial contract to respond within 8 minutes. No, that was the old contract, actually 2 contracts ago. They had that changed their response time up to 12 minutes. So in closing, there's a lot of repetition, redundancy, like I said. We don't believe that it provides any roadmap or any problem solving. The way we feel at Bellevue, and I'm not speaking for everybody else, the other districts, this study just bashed the volunteers in our town in an attempt to make us look untrained and unable to provide any quality service to anybody, which is simply not true. Time and again, all the fire departments in Cheektowaga giving themselves to our residents and visitors, whether it's a fire, EMS, blizzards, floods, pandemics, whatever. And we continually bail the town out in every disaster for free. Literally neglecting our homes and families to help other people. Reading the study, it looks like there's a hidden agenda. And for the money spent, I personally and our board think it failed miserably. This has been going on for decades. I'm not blaming you guys or girls or people, however you want to say it. Most of you weren't here, so you don't know, and you don't know the EMS system. This has been going on for decades. This is not sustainable. People my age are what's holding the volunteer fire service together in town. I don't have much time left. Whether it's above ground or below or just getting burned out. Every fire company, there's a small percentage of people that hold it together, and it's getting older. Nobody's knocking on our doors to come and do this for free. They don't want to do it. They don't want to be cops. They don't want to be dispatchers. They don't want to be EMTs. They don't want to be doctors. They want to walk in and be CEO, give me $100,000 a year, out of high school. How we change that, I don't know. But it always seems like Cheektowaga is last. Orchard Park saw it need to change, they did it. Tonawana's had a working system in place for years. Niagara County just announced its county service. And Buffalo is talking about changing their system for the exact same reasons we've been complaining about for decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maisano?
Oh, here you go.
No, I'm not gonna make it quick. Very disrespectful.
Yes.
When Drescher and Malecki came up here, I was watching that thing. I saw the spike in 2022, obviously, with our storms. It's my understanding, either that, I know I'm getting older, I might, I mean, made a mistake in this, but I thought FEMA was supposed to bring us money. For the money we spent during that snowstorm, where's the money from FEMA?
Which one, Rick?
For 2022.
Yeah, town's been working on reimbursements. We haven't received the money yet, but we're well down the road, right?
That's correct, but unfortunately, FEMA used to be a lot more available to us. And now they've restricted things a lot more to the point where now they don't think snow is really an issue because we live in Buffalo. So they have restricted a lot of the reimbursement. So we've incurred a lot of expense that we're not going to be reimbursed for because it was multiple day event and they only limit it to like 48 hours. So, I mean, those events were significant, week-long events, you know?
Right.
So unfortunately, you know, many of our communities, we banged the drum as best we could and they didn't necessarily care. So, and I think FEMA, you know, they're just handing out money left and right. They gotta eventually put the restrictions on things. But it in the past, I've done many FEMA reimbursements and we've gotten a significant amount of money back in the past. This is gonna barely scratch the surface, unfortunately.
So it wouldn't even change those graphs then, right?
I mean, I think we incurred probably $5 million worth of expenses in some of those. We probably will get about $1 million back, maybe a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay, the second thing was, I have an older man in my church. And he's a veteran of the Korean War, and he's a hearing aid. He lost his DD 214. So I told him about the thing going on in Thursday. And I did meet with a councilman who's on board here. And he says they could actually help him, all right, to get another DD 214 so he can get his benefits. Please, people, there's people you know that are veterans that don't have any benefits. They're hurting. They don't know about these things. They're ignorant about the VA, or they're scared of the VA because of all the bad stuff that happen on TV. Something happens in the VA, they blow it out, and people, well, I'm not going to go there. But some of these people have nothing. They need these things. They need the benefits they work for. They put their lives on the line for us. So these benefits are there. And thank you for whoever is going to do this thing for Thursday. It's going to be a very, very important. But in the sound of my voice, the people watching, please, if you know veterans, get them out there Thursday. And get them out there. It's important. And the third thing is, when you disrespect each other, you're disrespecting us. My butt hurts. I'm an old man. These things are not comfortable. Church pews are more comfortable than these. Please, if you're going to have disagreements, do it back there. Don't bring it out here. Because when you disrespect each other and talk over each other, you're disrespecting us as the residents. You're disrespecting me, which I don't appreciate. Okay? And it was a better meeting. Last meeting was terrible. I walked out. Because I knew I would have really been very upset at the end. All right. It's 9:30 already. All right. These shouldn't go on this long. So please, if you have disagreements, there's nothing wrong with disagreements. Do them back there. Don't bring them out here with us. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
Last speaker, Don Flipsky.
Make it quick. I know, make it quick. I'll make it quick. I just wanted to say that about the employee stuff, I agree with Vern and some of the other, Brian, I think said, and a bunch of you other ones. It belongs back there. You don't bring a blank resolution to this board, to this room, and then fill in an employee's name, and then you haven't even agreed on it back there. Don't bring that crap up here. It's disrespectful, it's hurtful to the employees that are involved, and you're killing their morale. Thank you.
With that, make a motion to end tonight's town board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Bukowski. All in favor?